had never entertained the idea of becoming a priest in my teens or in my 20s. It never occurred to me to be a priest. I did feel more of a desire to contribute more to the church and to do more in the church. I remember my first night in seminary, I slept like a baby, and that was a great sign to me that I'd made the right decision. I never looked back. Ever since I went on the path to priesthood, I never had doubts. Greetings, my name is Eamon Roche. I'm a Catholic priest in the Diocese of Cloyne in the south of Ireland. I was ordained 7 years ago at the age of 44, so I'm a late vocation to priesthood. I'm very happy ministering here in Fermoy town in North Cork. I had a number of career paths before this, and I was very happy in those career paths. I was teaching for a while, very happy teaching. I was in the computer industry. I was in the IT business. I was very happy in that also. And then in my mid-30s, I became more interested in church activity, in prayer groups. In the evangelization movement in the church. And the call to priesthood came upon me very strong. I had this desire in my heart to be a priest, and I just followed that desire. It led me to seminary, and I've been very happy as a priest for the last 7 years. I love my priesthood. It gives me great joy. I grew up in a very Catholic home. Very faithful parents, a very loving environment. We prayed daily. We prayed the rosary every evening. We went to Mass faithfully on Sundays, so Mass and prayer were very much part of our lives growing up with my siblings. It was a happy home. So these are my memories of my childhood. It was a Catholic childhood, a Catholic upbringing, and I had great example from my parents. I went to school in the local Catholic school, had good teachers in that school. I have positive memories of our local priests. So yes, I would say a traditional Irish Catholic upbringing, which gave me a very positive sense of the church and priesthood. So as a young child growing up, I did encounter God in prayer, even the family prayer at home, praying the rosary. I have very strong memories of feeling a sense of peace, having that encounter with God as a young child, being close to God, always, believing His presence in my life. I didn't really have, we'll say, a very strong encounter with God until my college days, when I was between the ages of 18 and 22. I found life a little bit hard there. I was maybe a little bit unsure of what to do with life and how to identify myself as a Catholic. So in college, I turned to God and asked Him for help with my life. I was feeling a little bit stuck, unsure. Yeah, and I had a very positive, a very strong encounter with God in those days in college, in my early 20s. And this gave me a new appreciation for my faith, just the value of faith. I met some wonderful people in that time. I went to University College Cork. I was studying electrical engineering. I started to visit the chaplaincy there, became involved with some prayer groups there. I met some wonderful people. And that was a massive time for me. And that was my big encounter with God at that time. So I studied electrical engineering in University College Cork, but I also followed that up with a higher diploma in education. So I did become a teacher in maths and science, and I taught for 4 years in a secondary school in Cork City. I love this. I love teaching maths and science, interacting with the students and school life there. And I did that very happily for 4 years. That was a good time for me. Some of that teaching experience I think I do bring to my priesthood nowadays as I enter schools and classrooms, as I do Bible study and catechesis. So I do draw from some of that experience of those teaching years. So I worked for 4 years in teaching maths and science in that school. And at that time in Ireland, the economy was booming. We call it the Celtic Tiger. So I also wanted to explore other areas. I was very interested in computer programming also, and there was lots of job offers. There was lots of job opportunities for computer programmers. So I decided to leave teaching behind, and I worked for that in 10 years as a computer programmer. It was wonderful. It was a new field, a new area to explore, new skills to develop, new interactions with people, dealing with business people and IT people. Well, I was in my mid-30s. I was very happy in life. I had my work, I had my hobbies, I had my friends. But I did have an attraction to get more involved with the church. I felt there was something maybe I needed to do more in my faith. Because I had been remembering how much I received from my faith in my early 20s, in my college time. And at that time then, in my mid-30s, I did feel more of a desire to contribute more to the church and to do more in the church. And God's providence put some good people in my way. I became very involved in some young adult evangelization groups. One was called Youth 2000. They're a wonderful group who have a missionary spirit. They want to reach out and bring the gospel to others, bring the love of Christ to others. So this gave me a new lease of life in my faith. They gave me a leadership role in the movement as well. So I became a leader in Munster in Youth 2000 and was responsible for organizing retreats, starting up new prayer groups, just reaching out to people, radio interviews and so forth. Their 3 pillars were devotion to Jesus in the Eucharist and the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary and her centrality and importance in the church, and also just faithfulness and fidelity to the church and her teaching, to the magisterium of the church. So I found those were great pillars to have, provided something solid and sure in faith. So that was a great platform for me to have a new involvement with the church, a new appreciation for the church. So at this stage I was very involved with young adult ministry. I was a leader in that group I spoke about. And I encountered a number of wonderful priests in those years. So all of a sudden, up to this, I had no thoughts of priesthood really up to that point in my life. I had never entertained the idea of becoming a priest in my teens or in my 20s. It never occurred to me to be a priest. But all of a sudden, when I was doing that evangelization work, the thought did occur to me, would priesthood be for me? And initially, when I became interested in the idea, I said, that I wouldn't pursue this too much. I just left the thought in my mind, but the thought grew. There was a period in my life then, for a whole year, when I woke up in the morning in my bed, the thought of priesthood was just waiting for me when I woke up. This idea should grow. And it did grow. The idea did grow. It kept on persisting in my mind, usually in the morning, first thing when I woke up. Priesthood was just in my mind. And eventually I did make a phone call. I phoned the diocesan vocations director, and I spoke to him and I met him. And again, I took things very slow. I knew there was no pressure on me to be, to follow this. If it was meant to be, it would grow, and it did grow. And one thing led to the other, and it became very easy in the end to request from the bishop that he consider me for priesthood. So I met the bishop at the time, and we decided that yes, I would go ahead for seminary. So I went to seminary in Maynooth. I remember my first night in seminary, I slept like a baby. And that was a great sign to me that I'd made the right decision. I loved philosophy, I loved the theology. I loved meeting my classmates and the other men going forward for priesthood. They're very happy years. I loved the study aspect. I loved growing in my faith, growing in my knowledge of theology and philosophy. I felt very enriched in seminary through my encounters with others. Seminary isn't always an easy path. I never look back. Ever since I went on the path to priesthood, I never had doubts. Some men on the journey do have doubts, and they work through those doubts. I didn't have that trouble of looking back or opting out. Once I began the path to priesthood, my eyes were always ahead. I always felt the call, always felt that I was on the right path, always content. And yeah, that led to my ordination, and a very happy day in my ordination. The ordination day itself was wonderful. The 5th of July 2015. It was a beautiful sunny day. One of the nicer parts of this experience is just to have family there, to have friends there, to have fellow priests there who would be my priest brothers that day. So there was a great sense of celebration about the day. It was powerful experience just to walk up the aisle of the church, to be before the bishop, to prostrate myself on the ground in the cathedral, St. Coleman's Cathedral Cove, the most beautiful church imaginable to be ordained in, just to experience the privilege of ordination and the graces of ordination. Yeah, the joy of entering that fraternity of priests as well. Co-workers together in the diocese. So very memorable experience. And my first Mass was in the Sacred Heart Church in Mogili, the very church where I was baptized. That was a very special experience to bring everything back to my local parish where I grew up, knowing that there was people in the congregation at that Mass who had prayed for me, who had seen me grow up, who had attended Mass with me and gone to school with me. So a wonderful day for our parish. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So I'm 7.5 years into priesthood now. I've been in 2 parishes, Middleton Parish and now Fermoy Parish. There's great variety in the life of a priest. There's so many different encounters. One attends and ministers at a wedding. One ministers at a funeral mass. One visits a school, just to encounter children who are full of joy. And then one visits the hospital where the patient is delighted to see the priest to give them comfort in their time of sickness, in their time of old age and nearing death. So daily life as a priest is really centered on the Eucharist. As a priest, I would say daily Mass. And yeah, first thing in the morning when I wake up, I would think about the Mass and prepare myself for the Mass and read the readings, and just to familiarize myself with the readings. But after that, there is great variety. I might visit the schools. We have lots of schools here in Fermoy. I might receive a call to go to the hospital. I might, on a Friday, the first Friday of the month, I will be bringing the Eucharist to the housebound, to the sick and to the elderly. There might be a meeting of priests. One might have to meet one's bishop or go to a conference. One of the great things in seminary was I had time to read and study with the professors there, with my fellow students. And I love to read Pope Benedict XVI's writings. I read as much as I could of his writings and his homilies, his encyclicals, and he was very inspiring. I had come from a maths and science background, and I loved the way he, especially Pope Benedict, he saw a great fruitfulness between faith and reason. That dialogue between faith and science, for example, that's enriching. So I saw him as an example of an intellectual who had faith, and how he saw faith and revelation as elevating reason. So faith isn't something superstitious. It actually enhances our reasoning skills. It leads us to wisdom, to God's wisdoms. Since I became a priest, I always knew that there would be challenges for the Church in Ireland and challenges for me as a priest. Insofar as Ireland is certainly changing its relationship to the Catholic Church. At one point in Ireland, almost everyone attended Mass and practiced the Catholic faith. So I knew from the beginning of my priesthood, since I entered seminary, that this would not be the church I would enter into. But that didn't actually deter me. I was always filled with hope that those who wanted to practice the Catholic faith, that there would be a vibrancy, a sincerity about those, whatever the numbers may be, even if there are small numbers, that those who wanted to practice the faith and grow in their faith would be true to their faith and very interested. So this is what inspired me. Modern world we live in, it's quite a commercialist world, it's quite a materialist world, especially the Western world where we live in Ireland. So it's quite secular now. It's saturated by social media, by television and so forth. So why is the church relevant and important? Why is the priesthood important? Well, I think with all our material comforts, I still think people have a yearning for deeper meaning in life, and there is a spiritual hunger there. Even from the time of Augustine, he wrote about that hunger, that we have restless hearts. My heart is restless. Only God can satisfy that restlessness, and even in my own life, I felt that deeper hunger for something more meaningful. So I have my ordination prayer card in my hand, and it features St. Joseph holding the child Jesus. So I'll just pray this prayer now. It's a prayer I put on the back of my ordination card. Lord God, in your loving kindness, you sent your Son to be our shepherd and guide. Continue to send workers into your vineyard to sustain and direct your people. As St. Joseph served with loving care your only begotten Son, born of the Virgin Mary, may your priests be worthy to minister with a pure heart at your altar. Amen. So I like that prayer. It includes St. Joseph and the Blessed Virgin Mary also, who are great models. Very important for priests just to stay close to the Blessed Virgin Mary and St. Joseph. My middle name is Joseph, so he is very dear to me. So to young men discerning priesthood, I would just say that my life as a priest is a very happy and joyful life. It's not at all a lonely life. There's lots of interaction with one's parishioners in one's celebration of Holy Mass and pastoral ministry. There's lots of encounters, so personally I don't feel loneliness at all. Quite the opposite. I feel very fulfilled as a priest, very happy. I would say to you also that the decision for priesthood is a very free decision. You know, when our Lord called me to priesthood, it was very free. I didn't have a sense of obligation or heaviness about the decision. was something he put in my heart, a desire. I followed that desire. If I wanted to opt out, I felt no pressure or obligation or heaviness about the decision. I just kept pursuing the desire, and it led to this. It led to a very happy and fulfilled life. So my goal in my priesthood is just, I hope and I pray that the Lord will keep directing me. Even within that, I would pray that the Lord will guide me every day, which initiatives to take up. I do spend a lot of time in running Bible courses. I love the idea of study and catechesis. I love reaching out to the youth and doing my best to teach them the doctrines of the faith and giving them a sense of our Catholic traditions. So I love these extra initiatives that I take on myself, and I would just ask the Lord to keep directing me and guiding me, in these, we'll say, extra activities, going on pilgrimages, that He might direct me in this and give me the energy to do them. So those are my goals as a priest, and hopefully He will keep guiding me.
Are you searching for fulfillment? Discover true happiness. Stay tuned to Shalom World.